A couple of days ago, I was talking to a client, Barbara. Let's just call her Barbara, right? Barbara came to me. Barbara was like, Mrs. Smith, I'm so happy that I listened to you when it came to not moving my money, when it came to fluctuating markets, right? Now, let me give you a snapshot. Barbara and I talked earlier in this year, and it's just to 2025. Earlier this year, we talked, and Barbara was like, when she saw the market going down, she said, all my coworkers are telling me I need to move my money. I told her, Barbara, we have a plan in place. We've been working with you for a number of years. Let's just stick to the plan. Let's stick to the plan. We built your financial house, our system that we use for our clients. You're one of our clients. Let's stick to the plan. Fast forward, right? Market starts to bounce back. Barbara's like, Mrs. Smith, so happy that I didn't do this. A lot of my money, the money that I lost, majority of it's back. Whereas my friends who moved their money to the G fund are now stuck with their losses, right? Super, super, super important part. If you don't have a financial plan, you're risking a lot, right? And so I want to talk about that today in this video, right? Now, when it comes to volatile markets, there's a couple of things you have to understand, right? Markets can go up, markets can go down, markets can go sideways, right? You have your flat years, right? Markets are going to market, they're going to have activity, right? And so what you have to do when you realize this, you must just have a plan that no matter what it does, you're going to be okay, right? And so in Barbara's example, because Barbara had a plan, she didn't have to do anything, right? We equated for when markets go up, right? We equated for markets go down. You want to have that balance, right? And so what you don't want to do is you don't want to panic, because when you panic, you end up doing what a lot of her coworkers did, which is locking themselves. We call it locking themselves in the basement. Let me give you an example. Let's say you have $100,000 in your TSP. All of it's in the C fund, but you don't plan on retiring for the next 5 or 6 years, right? Right now, let's say all of a sudden you panic, you move all your money to the G fund. The market drops 10%, you move all your money to the G fund. Now you're down to $9,000 in your G fund, right? Now, because you panic, you move your money there. Now, when the market bounces back, you don't know when the market's going to come back. But let's say the other day the market went up 5% one day, right? All of a sudden you say, okay, well, dang, now that the market's back, I want to move my money back. Now, the 2-3 days after that, the market might not give you that 5%. The market might be -2. It might be 1. It might be flat. It might be -3, right? But because you moved your money after the spike, you risk going down even further, chasing the spike, right? And if you study the market, you do realize that the market has a couple of days a year where you see those spikes. The rest of the days are just ones and twos, -1, -2. Like it's just small little blips. But then you have those days where the market goes down, then the market goes up. You have those days. But the thing is, you can't chase those days, right? I don't know how I can't chase those days. You can't chase those days. But what you can do is make sure you have a financial plan that equates for the longevity of the market. And that way you don't have to move your money based on emotion, based on fear, and things like that, right? And so when it comes to your TSP, let's talk about what those different funds are and the functionality of those funds. So, as you know, you have 5 main funds in the G fund, right? But they're really broken down into 2 typical categories, right? You have your G fund and your F fund. Those are considered to be your safe funds, right? And the reason why, because heavily bond based. So now you have your G fund. G fund, when you go into your TSP, it says cash, because the G fund is considered cash, right? And the reason why that is because there's not a lot of market volatility. But the problem with not having a lot of market volatility is you don't get much gain when it comes to that G fund, right? It's safe, but as we've been talking about a lot in some of these videos, is inflation is something that is creeping up. It's been steadily rising. We've capped out a little bit, but inflation is in the market, right? It's out there. It's growing. It's a big topic, right? And so you want to make sure your money is at least outgrowing inflation. And with the G fund, even if you go to tsp.gov, you go to the G fund page, it has an inflation warning on there, right? So though you might not lose money as far as dollar amount, you lose buying power, right? So you have to be careful with the G fund. And then the F fund over the last couple of years just hasn't been performing like it used to. Over the last 10 years, the F fund at the time of this video was at 1% over the last 10, which is just completely unacceptable, right? And so, again, another inflation risk, right? And so those are the two protected funds, right? And so you can have you want to have some of that, but you don't want to have a lot of that depending on your financial situation. Again, I'm speaking generalized advice. Meet with a financial advisor to be able to get your specific plan. I'm speaking general terms here. Please don't take any of this advice and apply it unless you talk with somebody that has looked at your situation. I'm speaking in general terms. So, but the F fund in general, if you have a lot of years left, F and G, if you have a lot of years left before retirement, you don't want to have the majority of your money in a space like that, again, because you risk losing out to inflation. Now you have your C, S, and I, right? And the one I'm going to talk about today, for the most part, is the majority of this conversation is the C fund, because that's the most popular fund that people run to, and for good reason. The C fund over the last 2 years has returned 24 and 26% respectively, right? And I'm talking in 2024 and 2023, right? And those 2 years has been significant because the accounts that are within the C fund, because the C fund tracks the S&P 500 index. And within the S&P 500 index, you have companies like Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, Tesla. I know Tesla's not popular right now, but I mean, it's in there. Amazon, Chase, JP Morgan Chase. Some of the bigger companies that we use on a daily basis. Most of these companies, 4 or 5 of them, we use every single day, right? And so those companies did really, really well over the last 2 years. Now, this year, not so much. I mean, it's kind of things have kind of balanced out as of this video, but the C fund will show you some volatility. But for example, those 2 years of back-to-back plus 20%, at the time of this video, the C fund is just down 5%, 4.9%, right? That's after gaining a plus 40% in the last 2 years, right? So just think about the math there, right? You're not losing that much, but risking what you gained over the last 2, if that makes sense. You don't want to miss out on those. And so the point I'm making from this video is when you have a plan for your TSP over the long haul, you don't have to, act emotionally when the market has some correction, right? Because in the long run, you will win, right? And so that's the point of this video. And so what we do at Fed Legacy, we make sure you have what we call your financial house, which is making sure you have the right amount of money in a protected status, right? Because that means, especially for those that are 2 years out plus retirement. I know over this year at least, with the rifts and everything going on, you just don't know when you have to retire, or forced to retire, or and so we could talk about those things one-on-one, but you want to make sure you have some level of money that's in a foundation status, meaning money that you're going to need for income for your spouse if your spouse is not in the same financial situation you are. And that could come through life insurance, that part, estate plan. You want to make sure all those things are in what we consider the foundation part of your financial plan. The next piece, you want to make sure you have a tax plan. That includes like a Roth TSP strategy, a Roth IRA strategy. We talk a lot about Roth conversions in some of our videos. You want to make sure you have an inflation plan. I mean, that's more so making sure your money's invested in a way that you're always outpacing inflation. And then and that's considered the walls, the insulation, the protection aspect of your financial house. And the most important piece for this video is you want to make sure you have your roof in place. And your roof is, how much risk do I need to take, right? And so we typically use what we call the rule of 100, popular term. And again, everything that we do, we customize for when we're meeting with you one-on-one. But for the purpose of this video, I just want to give you a generalized approach. Some people like to do things themselves. Just Google the rule of 100. And what that means is you take the number 100, you minus it by your age, and then that lets you know how much money you should be at risk. You should have at risk. And that risk meaning like in the C fund or stocks, things that can be volatile, but also focus on the upside. They have a lot of upside, right? When the market's doing well, because the market typically does well, right? I know times like right now are pretty volatile, but the thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to be reactionary, trying to chase the market, because again, the market was tough in March and April and February for the most part. But then we had some bounce back in May that most people didn't predict. And that bounce back kind of closed the gap on the losses. And so if you're sitting on the sideline, you lost, then you go sit on the sideline. You don't know when to get back in. And then when you get back in, it could go down some more. And that's how you really get in trouble, because you start chasing the market. And that's not what you want to do, right? Because our goal, at least at Fed Legacy, is to make sure you retire on time and with confidence. And the way to do that is just making sure you have a plan. The mistakes you make when you get emotional around money, and I get being emotional, I get it, right? It's your life savings is an important thing. But, again, it's not your job to know how to do this stuff, right? And so what you want to do is just have a plan, stick with the plan over the long haul. And in most cases, you'll be all right, right? So that's the purpose of this video. Don't get caught trying to chase the market. It's tough. I know the news is there to scare you and all this type of stuff, but just be like Barbara, right? Just sit, trust the plan that you have, whether it's any financial plan. If you do the law of 100, rule of 100, do that, stick with it, right? Consult with a financial advisor, get your situation built out so you know what it is, and then stick with that plan. Don't be a person that watches the news and react. Because if you do that, you're down 20%, try to get back in, now you're down 25%. You're like, well, how come this isn't working for me? It's because you're chasing the market. You don't know nobody knows, and when the market's going to bounce back, but if you stick with a plan, you'll be in a good shape. You'll be in good shape. If you want to, schedule a call with us, just go to fedlegacycall.com or comment below, comment the word plan below, and our team will reach out to you. But I hope you're doing well. Talk to you soon.